Welcome to Creating a Disruption, the podcast that focuses on ways to disrupt the traditional classroom by using engaging teaching and learning strategies. I am Brian Hall, Associate Professor of English and Coordinator of Studio 101 on the Metro campus of Cuyahoga Community College. Studio 101 is the campus's creative learning space. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Kara DePaul.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today's guest is Dr. Erica Stevenson, Associate Professor of Biology at the Westshore campus. Erica has been with the college since 2014, and she is a Bessie Award winner and recently received the college's Faculty Leadership and Sustainability Award for, among many things, including her involvement in creating the Outdoor Learning Lab. The Faculty Leadership and Sustainability Award recognizes faculty who have incorporated sustainability into their curriculum, so congratulations on receiving this award.
Thank you.
One of the things I've always appreciated about the sciences is the aspect of experiential learning that always seems to be part of that curriculum and that experience. And I think the Outdoor Learning Lab is such a great example of allowing students to explore the content of your course. As we get started, I'm curious to learn more about the Outdoor Learning Lab and why it was so important to do this particular project.
Well, as a student myself, when I was in college, my favorite course was natural history, which is a course that covers all of the aspects of nature, the flora and the fauna, and looking at and identifying those things. And we don't have really a course like that, or even spaces to do that outside of the classroom and preserved specimens. And it's really great to observe nature in nature. So right behind the Westshore campus, and actually the science faculty offices look out into this green space. And every time I would go to the window, which is pretty often, because I'm always drawn outdoors, I would envision like this pathway back there, and we have a pond back there, and I can see like students going around and doing the surveys of the different species that are out there, and I just had this vision that we needed a space for classes to take place outside. And originally it was just for biology, like that was my vision. And then with a colleague, Beth Vidia, we applied for a FIG grant, Faculty Innovation Grant, to get the pathway built out and some things like binoculars and bird houses, and we've even had faculty like Joe Koch over at West. He built us some bat houses. We had one of the ladies in financial aid, her husband builds bird houses, so he built us some bird houses, and we have benches and things like that, so that it is set up to be a space that learning can take place. Like the students can go out there and observe nature. They can, for my classes, I teach microbiology. One of the things that we did was we got this, it's called a dipper, but it's basically a really long pole with a cup at the end, scientific cup. And so I have my students go outside, and I'm always like, okay, guys, make sure you have your boots on and your coats, well, depending on what time of year it is. We're going outside tomorrow. And they're like, what? Like, this is microbiology lab. We have Bunsen burners. We do it in the lab. I'm like, no, we're going outside to collect pond water from our pond to take a look at, because one of our labs is using the microscope and learning how to make different prepared slides and wet mounts and things like that. And I'm like, well, what better way to observe than by actually going out and collecting pond water? We can take a look at what's in the pond water and kind of, there's so many different things that could be growing in there, but try to see what types of microbes might be in there. And then along with that, the lecture material often follows where we're talking about eukaryotic microbes. And lot of those cause human disease. And so we talk about why we don't drink pond water just out of, because we bring it in and we can see, oh my gosh, it's alive. Like there's so many things in it. So it's a really nice space that the students can go and be out in nature. And it also, I think, teaches them a little bit about stewardship, being able to like have this feeling of I want to protect this place. And that only really happens if you have a connection with that place. And so I envisioned that the outdoor learning lab would be a place where students can go and be in an environment and see things that they may not normally see around their house, and observe things and feel passionate about them and have this sense of stewardship. That was my hope, at least.
So when you first started at Westshore, did you automatically envision that space around the building going, this is a place that I know I can do something with? Or was there a series of things that happened that made you go, I think we can really move this outdoors? Like, do you remember any of that process that occurred?
Well, I tend to spend a lot of time out there. Behind the building is where we have a lot of, we have some picnic tables, and it's just very serene and scenic. And like if I'm grading papers, I can leave a little note on my door like, I'm outside, like pointing to the back of the building, come find me, because I like to be out there. And as I said, I am drawn to the outdoors, and looking out that window, I could just picture this space and this pathway, and being able to utilize things like the pond and the trees, and we've planted some native wildflowers in there, and I just was hoping that that's kind of what it would be used for. And it was kind of a slow process, but once I went to Westshore, it felt very home, like my home. So I wanted it to be like my home, where I could feel comfortable inside, outside, and I want students to feel that way too.
How have the students reacted to being outdoors and being within the learning lab?
So they're a lot of times shocked when they are asked to go outside, especially, because for me, I teach anatomy and physiology, which doesn't generally lend itself to being outside. But microbiology, we do go out a couple times. We'll collect pond water, we'll collect moss to observe microbes in those areas, because microbes are ubiquitous. They're absolutely everywhere, and we try to find them where they are. I was just hoping that if we develop this space, we could develop more classes or have more classes that could be outside. So Beth Vidia teaches 1500 and 1510, which are the Principles of Biology year-long course. And she utilizes it a lot, as well as we've never had Biology 1060 and 106L, which is like ecology and evolution. And that's something that we were able to bring to the Westshore campus. And it's actually one of our better non-majors courses, like enrollment-wise. So it's kind of opened up these possibilities to get more students and more classes open and have this great resource.
I love that you appreciate being outside, right? Even if it's just to grade papers or, you're prepping for your class. Did your presence outside kind of naturally draw other faculty and other students out there as well?
I think so.
Yeah.
As I said, I put a little note on my door whenever I'm outside, and people will come down. And generally, our campus has a nice walking path that goes around the entire campus, especially on that side of the building. It's very wooded, and it allows, people are just walking back and forth. They'll stop and say hi. I'll see students out there if they're, taking their lunch outside, or they'll come out and, find me. in order to talk to me. And faculty stop by if they see that I'm out there. So it has drawn people outdoors, I think, which is wonderful.
I would think too, seeing like the actual connection when you go out and you collect the pond water and you bring it back in, and now you're seeing these microbes or parasites on the like, sometimes we know that there are things living in water, but you can't see them. So I would think that that would be a big aha or connection moment for students. But I'm curious, like, has any student ever politely or just absolutely refused to go outside, or did anybody have any kind of like reactions to being outside?
No, usually they're pretty grossed out though.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have students coming out of microbiology that are just, they're like, now I'm always washing my hands and I'm always washing down all the surfaces. And I'm like, well, they're there, but they're not all bad. So, I've never had anyone refuse to go out. And in fact, most of the time people are, I ask the students, I'm like, here's the stick. Who wants to go, get the pond water? Or, why don't you guys go search around, find your moss, and bring it in, and we'll take a look at it. And they're usually very enthusiastic about it. So the one problem is like when it's January or February, and it's a little, the pond's frozen over. So sometimes we have to come up with alternative plans. Like usually I'll go out a couple days ahead of time and bring, get the pond water so that it can have time to warm up. But that's only when it's winter time.
Right. So you said that people within the college built bat boxes and birdhouses. Are those used by students as well to observe them? Or
So that was the purpose,
Yeah.
is to hopefully bring nature to us so that we can sit quietly and look at behavior if we want to. I'm a neuroscientist, and when I was doing my PhD, it was behavioral neuroscience. So I observed animals behaving. And that's one of the things that is a outcome for biology, is looking at animal behavior or talking about animal behavior. And it's a nice thing to, have the bird feeders out and to have the bird houses so that there is action around there, so that they have something to look at. We have yet to have anybody move into our bat houses, but I'm still hopeful.
Okay. So I'm going to show a picture of, this is part of the path.
Yes, so that's the main entrance to the path. We have a plaque there that kind of describes our mission, which is to bring people into nature, get them inspired and connected to nature so that they can carry out some stewardship and sustainability.
That's great. What other assignments or activities do you have that's connected to the outdoors, if any, or other things you might do in your classroom?
Well, one thing that I have really done, I'm an honors coordinator at Westshore. And so I know this is not exactly classroom, but this is with our honors students, where we take turns with, like, they have activities that they have to participate in, honors activities. One of the honors activities that I set up was a field trip, a virtual field trip, was because it was during the pandemic. And I actually ended up inviting some of my students from microbiology and anatomy and physiology. So this was with the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, and it was about how climate change affects the body. And so, which the education team over at CMNH actually just won an award for their great teaching. So it was a really great experience. Even though it was virtual, like, we got to see specimens, like real human specimens. They talked about the effects of different types of climate change, like increasing pollen production, so it causes more allergies. It causes more heart attacks because of increased heat. And we got to see like an actual human heart, and we got to see like all of these great things that the museum had to offer. And students, I think, mostly showed up for just the opportunity to be like, oh, well, this is something other than class I could go do. But I think they really enjoyed it after they participated in it because it was kind of case study based. So they had it set it up for case study, and they asked questions, and it was great.
Is it something you're continuing on even post-pandemic? Are they still doing it?
They are still doing them. They do cost some money. So I did get some funds from the honors program to help run that field trip. So I would like to do another one in the future. That would be great. I think they have some really interesting ones that you can participate in.
I just think that's such a great way to connect your students to other global issues that are going on. And coming back to anatomy and physiology, I would imagine you probably have a lot of like nursing students or pre-nursing students in your anatomy and physiology classes, or in health careers programs. So being able to connect it like beyond just the anatomy and physiology, right?
Yes.
And connecting the body and the place that we are in.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard because that is a content-heavy course to get any discussion other than the topics at hand, right? So it was a nice way of being able to tie in the sustainability aspect of things and like, hey, your body is affected by what's happening to our world. So it was a really good, I think they didn't really know what they were in for or what they were going to be learning, but I think it was like, that's why it's important.
Sure, yeah.
And I think it's always so important to find ways to connect students to the different organizations, museums that are within the city.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are so many great resources here that sometimes students don't even know about or know what they could get out of the different institutions. So it's great to have that they have that experience to see.
This sounds like a new edition of the Faculty Innovation Grant or the Learning and Teaching Excellence Grant for this year.
Perhaps.
Just putting it out there.
Nice plug.
Be launching soon in October.
All right. Have there been any assignments, maybe connected to the Outdoor Learning Lab, maybe just connected to class in general, that you ever felt apprehensive about trying because it's new? How did you get over that? Well, first, I guess, what was it? And then, how did you get over it? And how did students react to that assignment that you were trying?
Well, I feel like I've been trying a lot lately because I'm in the ACUE online course.
Oh, yes.
So basically with that course, we learn a new strategies every week, and we have to implement something. So I'm always doing that, which is, I think that's amazing because sometimes I'll have these ideas and then I'll be like, well, that topic just passed, so I have to wait till the next semester. But this is like forcing you to change just even something small in your course and see how it goes. So I feel like I'm always a little bit apprehensive when I'm going in to do something new because I'm a planner and I like to have it like laid out, but I have been a lot more ambitious about it and laid back about it, which for me is good. So like some of the things that I have tried recently because of the course are like one day I decided that, they have to learn this huge list of bones in A&P1. So to introduce that topic, we have this big box of bones. It's a disarticulated skeleton. And I had everybody have their box of bones. And we did basically a scavenger hunt, a bone scavenger hunt. And so I went through the list of bones and I'm like, okay, guys, find me a humerus. And I just wanted to see what they knew ahead of time. And so, somebody would, I was like, get it, pick it up, hold it above your head, be confident about it. Even if it's wrong, who cares, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to learn. And so then they would, grab their bones and show me their bones. And then I would be like, go up to the articulated skeleton that's all put together. And I'd be like, okay, so here's the humerus right here in the upper arm. And I'd go around and be like, okay, you guys, you got the bone. That's great. And this is what it does. And these are some of the important aspects that they have to learn about the humerus. And it was an interactive way for them to, and it was kind of gamified, although there were no prizes. And
Knowledge.
yeah,
Knowledge was
is
the prize.
exactly. And so it was like a nice way of, instead of being like, here's a box of bones, here's a skeleton, here's your list of things you need to figure out, go for it. Like, so this got them engaged. I also did, right after bones, we learned muscles. And so it's another big list of muscles, and they have to know like where the muscles are and what they do, like their function. And so we did a jigsaw where I split them into body region groups. I had like enough for 4 groups of 4. And I'd be like, you got arm muscles, you have leg muscles, you have torso muscles, you have head and neck muscles. And then they had to learn their set of muscles, point them out on the models in their expert groups. And then they went back to their original groups and taught the other members in their group where the muscles were and what they did. And so instead of kind of presenting them with this enormous list, which is very daunting, they had a much smaller list that they had to initially become experts in, and then enough so that they had to teach their group mates, and then they learned from their group mates like the other muscles.
Do you think the students liked and appreciated teaching each other?
I think they were probably apprehensive at first, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to know this, in 20 minutes, 30 minutes? How am I going to know enough to teach these other people? But they did a good job. So I thought it was successful. And I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that next time I teach that class in person.
So the students, going back to the box of bones, do the students really get into that? Because I could see them like just getting excited
some of
about.
them are competitive.
Oh yeah,
They're like
are
want to be the first ones with the bone. Like they're like, I know this one.
competitive and confident. You can't go
Yeah.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to let them know that it's okay if you don't get it right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how you learn by making mistakes, and that creates an atmosphere where it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
And students are more likely to take chances on it. The other thing I love about teaching strategies like Jigsaw, you can apply them to so many different things.
Absolutely.
So I think that was a great method of doing that. And did you feel that when they did go into, like all the groups got together, they broke away from the expert groups and got into the other ones, did you feel the students were confident enough to present sort of their muscle and that you're like, okay, they got it, right?
Yeah, I feel like they, for the most part, they might have to like, go back. I told them they could make notes if they wanted to. They could go back and like kind of look at their cheat sheets. But for the most part, they were like, showing their models and showing their muscles to the other students pretty confidently for the 20, 30 minutes I gave them.
That's great. So you mentioned the AQ course. Is there anything that you are looking forward to implementing this semester that you've come across?
So I am going to, this semester, I am teaching A&P 2 in person. I kind of switch back and forth between teaching A&P 1 in person, A&P 2 in person. So this semester is A&P 2 in person, and one of the things I want to do is do the jigsaw, but with blood vessels, because that is another huge daunting list. And set them up where they can have groups and different body regions and the blood vessels in those body regions and teach them to their lab mates. Another thing I want to do, unrelated to the AQ course, is implement more use of our anatomage table into my course. I don't know if you guys know what the
Yeah,
anatomized table is.
Tell us more, please.
It's this 6-foot-long table. It is basically a virtual cadaver that you can manipulate. It's all touch screen. It's 6-foot-long touch screen. It literally looks like a gurney with a person on it, but obviously the person is virtual. And so
That's amazing.
it's really cool. It's like the coolest techie tool
I
that we
think
could
we need
have
to go
in-
on a tour.
So it's like a operation. Remember the game Operation?
Yeah.
So it's like that,
It's
like flat, right?
like a person. Yeah,
And-
flat, but it is it's images of a real person.
Okay.
So they took a cadaver and they took very high definition pictures, and they of slices, very, very small slices of this person, so that like you can go and you can have a whole cadaver, or you can take their skin off, or you can have just the skeleton, or just the cardiovascular system, or cardiovascular and nervous system. So like you can pick and choose what you want to see, but this is based on pictures from a real human being cadaver that you can manipulate. You can make them, just like any touchscreen. You can make them bigger. You can actually turn the person over. You can flip them on their head. Like you can totally manipulate them in any way that you possibly can. And like even in our anatomized table, like you can actually cause start the heartbeat and watch blood flow through the blood vessels. It's the most amazing thing. So one of the topics in AMP2 is cardiovascular system. So I'm hoping to implement, like get more anatomized table activities together so that we can use that amazing tool. Because when I learned anatomy and physiology, we learned on cadavers. So we dissected cadavers, and it's just not something that is feasible, especially at community college. But this is like the next best thing. It's probably even better because it doesn't smell.
Yeah.
So, and it's just amazing. So I'm hoping to do more of that. I'm hoping to get more of the faculty on board too. I'm probably the person who uses it most often.
Do the other campuses have this, or do the bio faculty come to you at Westshore?
I think West has one.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the other campuses. I'm pretty sure West has one and we have one. But it is just an amazing tool, and I'd like to use it more.
Absolutely.
I would love to do a field trip there.
Right.
Come on over. I'll
Yeah.
show it to you.
When you were talking about the humerus bone, like I was like, oh yeah, that's in the thigh, and then you were like, oh, the arm bone. I was like, oh,
The funny bone, right? Humerus.
Humerus, yeah. It's obviously been a minute since
It's
I've
okay.
been in an AMP class, but so do you invite, like you mentioned that you and Beth Vadia, who is bio faculty at Westshore as well, like you collaborate with her. Like, do you often invite faculty from other disciplines or other campuses out to the Westshore to use the learning lab or the outdoor lab or this anatomage table?
Well, I would love to have more faculty out in the learning lab. As I wrote in my FIG application, is that I hope that it would be a space for all disciplines, where the math faculty could get out there and do statistics, and we can get the English faculty out there, and the students can, brainstorm and be inspired by topics of nature. We have art classes, and maybe they could go outside and be inspired by the nature as well. So I really hope that someday it is more utilized by other disciplines, but the science faculty do use it. Even chemistry uses it. So.
Yeah.
Take my students on a field trip from Metro to Westshore.
Bring them
There you
on
go.
out.
Yeah, get some fresh
I'll
air.
show
at
them the
Westshore.
anatomized table.
That might be just for me at that point because I'm really curious about it.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
Do you feel like your students, what do you feel like your students benefit the most from using that kind of technology? Is it that they are together, learning it together? Is it they're, getting to interact with it, touch screens and things. Like, what do you feel like is the most beneficial part of that?
I think the touchscreen part of it, the technology aspect of it, is just makes it more fun. But I do think the benefits of doing activities like the jigsaw and the scavenger hunt and working on the anatomize table is it gets them out of their seats. Anything to get them moving and touching things and drawing things. One of the great things about the Westshore campus is the new half of the building. All of the rooms, 3 of the walls are whiteboards. So whenever I'm teaching in there, like they're teaching most of the time. A lot of times I flip the classroom. So I'll give them a soft chalk to introduce the topic and they learn things. And then they come into class and I ask them, hey, all right, form groups of 3, go to the board, do a concept map. Here are your words you need to do. Here's the topic. Build out a concept map. Or I'll tell them, hey, can you go draw me a diagram of the spinal cord and spinal nerves? Now let's talk about how the flow of electricity through the neurons passes through that. So like a lot of times, just getting them up and getting them trying to use their brains to teach each other and work together to, dive down into their brains to figure out, okay, well, I remember some of that, but, do you remember the other part of that? I think that aspect of working together and almost like self-teaching, not really, because I've presented the information ahead of time, but like the review part of it, like, hey, now I got to figure out this problem based on the knowledge I have already. So anything that gets them up and moving.
Sure.
Well, there's that saying, I forget who originally said it, but those who do the work do the learning.
Yes.
And providing them an opportunity to do that allows them to have a more engaged experience, we hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I anytime I have them, make their own study materials. Like one of the things activities I have is tissues are the most boring thing to learn and teach, by the way. Tissues are so boring. It's a collection of cells that work together to do some sort of function. Okay, like fat is a tissue. So like we learn all these boring tissues and it's like, okay, what kind of cells are there? What is its function? Where is it found? And what does it look like under the microscope? Okay, so one of the things that I have them do is I created almost like flashcards for them. I'll have pictures of the tissues and then they have to go through the slides and match what they're seeing under the scope to the pictures that I provided, and then they have to fill in the other information about what kind of cells and the function and where it's found. And so they're creating their own flashcards. They don't really understand that until I say, okay, now you guys can go home and use these as flashcards. And they're like, whoa, I can do that? I'm like, yes, that was the point of this activity. So that they, creating your own study materials is the best way to learn, I think.
And they may not have done that on their own, right? They
absolutely.
would not have taken the self-initiative, but doing it in class and then being able to tie that back to that memory of class and seeing it under the microscope, I think probably is very helpful to them.
Yeah. I mean, some students do take that initiative to make themselves some flashcards, but this made sure that everybody did.
Everyone did. Are you open to other faculty reaching out to you, contacting you to learn more about the outdoor lab or any of the activities that you do in your class?
Absolutely. Anytime I can help another professor out, I feel like when I came and started in this, role as a college professor, like people helped me, and I think that it's just better for the students if we can share our knowledge and collaborate and come up with crazy ideas to try out in the classroom. And they don't always have to work, but it's great when they do.
Right, Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on winning the Faculty Leadership and Sustainability Award.
Thank you.
And I know I look forward to going out to the Outdoor Learning Lab and taking a walk
Okay.
pretty soon.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eric.